The dice were in my hand. My next move would determine whether I was going to keep all the points that I just accumulated or if I was going to lose them. I took up the dice, I tossed them onto the table, I watched them bounce this way and back before they stopped. And yes, the dice showed the numbers I needed to keep the points that I had. Everyone at the table cheered in applause because of this. This was one of the scenes from one of the many game nights that I had while I was living in Turkey. Our life can toss us into many different directions, and we can choose how we are going to respond. Some people view change as scary, and other people view change as exciting. No matter what the change is the opportunity to learn and grow beyond our comfort. Over a decade ago, I had the most wonderful and hard change happen to me in my life. My sister and her family were getting ready to be deployed to the next military assignment in Adana, Turkey, and they asked me to go with them. Me? Go to Turkey? I leave my job of 10 years, leave my family, my friends, my life here to go all the way across the world to face the unknowns? I don't know if I was ready for this, but in a way, I knew I needed and wanted this change in my life. So after I thought about it for a minute, I said yes. I was both nervous and excited for this new venture that I was going to go on. The only thing familiar that I knew was my sister and her family. We were on this journey together. I decided to go with them, despite my fears of the unknowns. On the military base, there were people and cultures who shared the newness of being on space together. That's what made living on space so special. This military base was a little town. It had everything you needed. It had a grocery store, it had stores, it had a library, it had a community center, it had a chapel. I could walk almost anywhere. And we were welcomed there with kindness and a generosity. Off base too, we were from the same kindness and a generosity. Off base, you could go to these shops, these stores that were geared to the people that lived on base. They sold things such as Turkish rugs and Turkish lamps and Turkish tailors were always trying to sell you a handmade Turkish suit. And also on these shops were some of the most authentic Turkish food you had. It was so good. I loved the food in Turkey. Making the decision to go with my sister and her family was hard. But as soon as I got to Turkey and felt the welcome and the kindness, my fears melted away. Life there was simple. It was easygoing. It was safe. And it was kind. 2 houses down from where my sister and I lived was a hospitality house. Hosted by Tony and Teresa. A hospitality house is a home hosted by somebody on the military base that welcomed anyone who might need a place to feel at home, to have a meal, and to fellowship with one another. The first time I met Teresa, she invited me to this hospitality house. One of my fondest memories of living in Turkey was this hospitality house. Every Sunday night, people would gather at their house for food and fellowship and fun and endless hours of games, which I loved. I don't know what made this hospitality house so special. I think it was just the togetherness, the belonging, just the laughter and the fun we had playing games all night long. We found community with each other when we were each so far from home. I will never forget the kindness shown to me in one small silent gesture. After my first night at the hospitality house, I was headed home for the evening. I went outside and stood at the top of the stairs. These stairs did not have a railing though, so I was wondering how I was going to get down them because I'm a bit wobbly on my feet. So this could be quite challenging. I was standing there contemplating what I was going to do when Teresa came over and stood by me, and she held out her elbow. I looked at Teresa, I looked at the elbow, and then I tucked my arm under her, and steadily we walked down the stairs together. This small act of kindness spoke volumes to my soul, not just because it was a small act, but because she saw a need and met it without making it a big deal. This small act of kindness made me feel seen and loved and valued and accepted. When I go visit Teresa now these days in Virginia where she lives, now she still holds out her elbow for me, and I gladly accept her help. Those nights of the hospitality house I will always look back on with fond memories. Just the being together, the love and acceptance and the games and the laughter that I felt in the house of Tani and Teresa, I will cherish always. Life is an ebb and flow of seasons. Remember good experiences. Don't dwell on the past. Live in the moment, because kindness is contagious. Mm-hmm.